TG Geeks, episode 183, August 20th, 2018, from author to manuscript to agent. Hello and welcome to another webcast from tggeeks.com, where Ben and Keith, the two gay geeks, talk about all aspects of geekdom and nerdery, sci-fi, comics, film, horror, genre, you name it, we talk about it. I'm Keith Lane, and we're coming to you from TG Squared Studios in lovely, hot, still Phoenix, Arizona.
And I'm Ben Raggington, also coming to you from a studio where now the voices sound nice
Yes.
and warm and velvety because we've done a little bit of an upgrade to our equipment here in Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah, we added a cloud lifter for these massive mics that we have, the SM7B, that eats power. So
yeah, and I keep wondering, because I remember Katie Edwards keeps making jokes about how we sound like radio gods. So I'm hoping, what does this do?
How does this
elevate
sound
us?
like now? How does this elevate us? How much we are an elder gods?
Elder gods.
Yes, because we're old.
We're Radio Cthulhu.
Radio Cthulhu. Yes,
I
there
like
you go. Hey, a new podcast. Anyway, we've got something a little bit different, kind of like we did last week. This week,
but nonetheless interesting.
Yes, this is actually Katie Edwards' agent, and she's going to tell us how
she got into the
business, and what
do
agents do, and all that kind of neat stuff. So let's go ahead and give a listen right now. And this time on the show, we have something just a little bit different out of our norm. We have Sarah Megabo. She is a literary agent out of Colorado. So we have the agent side of this. Welcome to the show, Sarah.
Thank you, Keith. Thank you, Ben. Great to be here.
Pleasure to have you.
So an agent, everybody, always talking about their agent. What is it? How did you get into this? I guess, what is your background? How did you get into this, and what does an agent do? So that covers a lot, but we'll probably interrupt you multiple times.
Perfect. I'm a mother, so I'm used to being interrupted. Go for it.
Okay.
That is a good question. So I graduated from Northwestern University. I have a degree in women's studies, a degree in gender studies, and a degree in American history.
Wow.
That was 96.
Good heavens.
Very...
Did you have time for a life?
I read a lot. What'd you say, Ben?
Did you have time for a life?
No.
I went to the symphony a lot.
I guess that counts.
I've always been a big nerd. So, I didn't really go to parties. I never drank. I used to sneak away on the L to go into the city to go to the Lyric Opera or the symphony or theater. I knew all the good indie bookstores in Chicago. I would walk along I called that a life.
Yeah, well,
I would
cool.
go back to Toledo, Ohio, and play D&D with my friends from high school. That was exciting.
You're speaking to the right people.
Yeah,
I figured. Yeah, so I wasn't popular. But I certainly have good memories. How does that sound?
Yeah. Well, hey,
there you go.
As long as it's good memories and not bad memories, then that's a good thing.
There you go. Okay, so that's. Yes, and I ended up with some degrees and some good memories. So that's what that was.
Yeah.
But I graduated in 96, which was the .com boom. So I moved to Colorado in 96, and there were companies that were opening up, and just walking up and down the streets, going into Starbucks and going into Target and going into these stores and saying, you're vertical. Do you want a job? It starts at $60,000 a year.
Good heavens.
No kidding.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Full benefits, like crazy. So I worked in .com for about 6 years, and I was a process specialist and corporate trainer. So I come to agenting with a background in sales and marketing and analytics.
Wow.
So in the .com bust then, which would be 2001, 2002, I got laid off. and did a smattering of other things, and then got pregnant with my son and decided, that's it, never mind, I'm not working anymore. I'm going to be a mom. So I took a year off and was a full-time mom, and it was like for sure the happiest year of my life.
Yeah.
And then my husband the same year decided he wanted to be a full-time musician.
Ah.
So financially that didn't work much. So I decided to go back to work, and I went into publishing. So that's the super long version of the story. But I started in publishing in 2006, and I come to it, like I said, from a background in sales and marketing and analytics.
Well, that actually works really well for you, I would imagine.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's 10 agents out there, we are 10 totally different people.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to come to this, from a different perspective, from different backgrounds, with different passions. And my passion is looking at the analytics of profit per client.
Right.
And some people, their passion is editing. And some people, their passion is publicity and marketing. And, we're all different.
Wow. That is really cool. So what exactly does an agent do for
the writer?
A writer, or
Sure.
obviously you speak for writers, but an agent in general, I would imagine some of the tasks are the same. Looking out for your client.
I would think that's probably true. I think what you're thinking is probably pretty accurate. I'm the salesperson who represents the writer in monetizing their words, basically.
Yeah.
So I only work in fiction. I would imagine that agents who represent authors who write nonfiction would have a little bit of a different story, so I can't speak to that.
Right.
I also don't represent any self-published books, so I can't speak to that. What I do is I sell books in the fiction market, specifically in the geeky stuff. So science fiction and fantasy for adults, science fiction fantasy for young adults, romance novels, middle grade novels, young adult novels, things like that. Just genre books.
Wow.
So what I do is I look for, 98% of my week is spent working for my current clients. And then a small percentage of each week is looking for new clients.
Mm-hmm.
So working for my current clients is things like submitting their manuscript to the publishers, because big publishers only accept manuscripts from agents.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They don't accept manuscripts from writers. So submitting and then negotiating contracts once the offers come in, and then selling subsidiary rights, which are Hollywood and audiobook and translation deals to make the author more money on each book, and then strategizing, okay, we have one book deal or a 2-book deal, what should we be working on next? Working on publicity, which is things like a website and perhaps some social media, perhaps some conferences, and then looking at, like I said, the analytics, which is where is distribution going, and what does the royalty statement look like, and how is hardcover versus trade paperback versus mass market versus ebook versus audiobook, and what are the bookstores doing with this book, et cetera. So that's kind of the drop in the bucket.
Wow.
If that helps.
That's one big drop.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
That's a lot.
It's very exciting, though.
Wow.
I work for amazing, amazing authors. I'm so proud of them.
Yeah, and one of those authors we have
Of
talked
course.
to, and that's how we came
That's
to
how I
know
came to
you.
know about you.
And that
I
was
know. I don't even know how we originally crossed paths.
from
Probably through Twitter. Social
Probably.
media, I would guess.
It was Katie Edwards and
Yes.
Keith, happened to mention you, and then I followed you on Twitter, and then it just kind of spiraled out of control from there.
Well, and I've been listening to your podcast for a while because I love,
Oh, dear.
everything geek. Oh, for sure. And
Should I be
when you
scared?
do- No, of course not. I'm a fan. You should never be scared of fans. We're nice, right?
Yay.
But so I don't. When you reached out to me, I was super flattered. So thank you.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, you only be scared of fans when they say, "I'm your biggest,
Biggest
fan."
Fan, right? Exactly. Or I know where you live. Please read my manuscript quickly.
Then I'm immediately
Yeah.
putting my house on the market.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have actually seen that once, but
Oh,
that's all right.
but that's
Yeah,
a tale
that's
for
it.
another day.
Yeah.
So you said something about D&D, and I just have to throw it in the
Oh, here we go.
the little story of, I remember D&D back in the original first printing of the books. I had them.
Yes, we are old farts.
No, yeah, I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
I probably started playing in 82,
Whoa, we beat you.
maybe.
1974. 85 was when
Oh, well, you only beat me by a little bit. Good grief. That's like,
It's bragging rights. What can we say?
Yeah. Well, I remember they said you have to buy chainmail first before you can understand anything. If you know what chainmail is, so.
Oh, of course I know what chainmail is. We go to the Renaissance Festival every year, and one of my best friends and our DM, he made himself an entire chainmail suit, which weighs 60 pounds.
Right. Well, I'm talking about the book
Chainmail.
which was
Oh my God.
Yeah, it predates the Gary Gygax D&D books.
yeah.
Yes, it does.
Yes.
No, I thought you meant somebody walked up to you and said, "Well, you have to get in costume before you play
Oh no.
before you play this game."
Renaissance
'Cause
cosplay.
That would be one way to scam us kids, right?
Yeah. You can't play unless you put in the sweat and the blood and the tears and
Right, exactly.
Isn't that called SCA?
yeah.
That's right. Well, that's hilarious. Wow, no, chainmail, that's old.
Yeah.
Older.
Yeah, I think it preceded the D&D books by a year,
Just a couple
year and a
years.
half, or
Yeah.
something like that. And that was kind of what spawned D&D is that book, and then they wrote the 3 books, and like I said, I had the original copies. I lost them in a move.
No, you
but-
didn't. Are you serious?
Yes.
Yeah. Play the sad violin music.
And I remember when the first appendix was released, it's like, oh my God, that was 76, 70, maybe 70. I think,
Yeah, probably.
I think I had just started driving, and I was supposed to go. Some friends from my hometown, we were supposed to go to Tulsa to this one place that had the books, and my dad said, "Okay, well you have to go with somebody." So I said, "Okay, I'll wait for them." I didn't.
Of course you
I
didn't.
drove to Tulsa by myself.
Oh, boy.
The 50
Tulsa from
miles.
From Muskogee.
Yeah, 50 miles. So
From
anyway,
Skokie, Illinois?
Muskogee, Oklahoma.
No.
Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, Muskogee, Oklahoma. Okay.
Yes.
Because my husband is from Topeka, Kansas. Well, he's originally from Germany, but he was raised mostly in Topeka, Kansas,
Oh,
and
I
he
know
went to the Renaissance festivals and D&D campaigns exactly those years.
Right. Yeah.
So.
I know where Topeka is. It's just north.
SCA, yeah.
Just north of.
He was in the SCA there, in that area.
That's cool. So anyway,
Yeah.
we, as I said,
Yeah, this could be...
that was just one of those sidebar things.
This could turn into a completely whole new show.
Yeah, and I think originally, as you said, we got connected by Katie Edwards because that was kind of a bizarre thing too, is because somebody had reached out to another author
That we had interviewed,
and Dwayne happened to tag us in that, and I picked up and I sent a direct message to Keith, and then we just corresponded back and forth, and he sent us the advanced copies to read. And I mean, this was even before it was the final edit.
Yeah, it was very a lot of early edit mistakes.
Yeah, so it was, and of course we loved it.
Oh God,
and I said something about the D&D because in my review I said this book reads like a D&D campaign with cars and cell phones.
Yep.
You
I remember that review because I agree with you totally, and that's what I connected in the book also.
Yeah, it was just incredible. I thought, this is the most incredible thing on the planet.
Well, I'll quote you on both those things then, obviously.
Yeah, it was a great... So you have... his is more of an adult fiction, but it could be young adult.
I think mature young adults could read it.
Mature young adult.
I just coined that. You can pay me anytime now.
No, hey, anybody can read it, and everybody on the planet should. And then
I agree.
Katie Edwards and I would retire on a private island with our royalties. That'd be great.
Yeah, there you go.
No problem there. No, so you mentioned an interesting thing about adult, or maybe young adult, or maybe a little bit of both. As an agent, we look very carefully at genre because I'm helping to sell print rights for an author to a publishing house, right? But the publishing house's customer is not the reader. The publishing house's customer is the retailer. So that's the bookstore and the library.
Exactly.
And when we walked into a Barnes & Noble, there is a shelf called young adult, and there's a shelf called science fiction fantasy, and there's a shelf called manga, and there's a shelf called picture book. And so when the publisher goes to the retailer and says, here's a book, the bookstore says, okay, where am I going to put it on the shelf?
Right.
Right. So that's why genre is such an important marketing conversation. When the writer sits down to write their art, this is, so writing is the art of literature and publishing is a business.
Right.
Right. When they sit down to write their literature, maybe they're not thinking about genre. Maybe they're not thinking about reader. Maybe they're not thinking about formulas. That's fine. When they go to look for an agent, though, those conversations become very, very important because we are looking for books that we can put in bookstores and libraries. And those mean they have to go on a specific shelf. So they have to adhere to formula, which is a really bad word when you're an artist, I know. But that's how we get stuff into retailers.
Yeah, we have a friend here that he actually is getting ready to write for us, but most of his stuff has been labeled as young adult fiction. And I never would have picked up any of his books had we not been introduced to him and knew who he was. He happens to be a very close friend of some of our close friends, and I just picked up one of his books because we continually see him when we would run into Greg and Audra and and so I said, okay, well, I think we probably need to read some of Tom's books. And I picked up one of his books. I've read several of his books, and they're really great. I mean, they are targeted, and most of his characters are young adults, but the stories are timeless.
Oh yeah, sure.
They,
was it a sci-fi fantasy?
The first one was not.
Yeah, some of his stuff is more of its life experiences. He's written a couple of horror, but they're young adult experiences that have the horror element to them. Most of his characters are, in the high school or just graduated high school range. So when he pitched to an agent, he probably said it's a little bit like Stranger Things, but for books. Yeah, and he doesn't do. I mean, there's a certain amount of angst in there, but he plays it very well. I mean, it's stuff that you can identify with. His writing is great.
Oh,
so
yeah. I mean, like I've mentioned, I have degrees, and I'm a feminist, and I'm well-read, and I love reading young adult novels.
Right.
I love reading middle grade novels. I love reading romance novels, and I'm a feminist.
Right.
And when somebody says, well, I like my book club fiction, good, that means they love their book club fiction. But my science fiction and fantasy, whether it's for adults or for kids, my romance novels, whether it's for adults or for kids, they're just as valuable literature.
Right. So
so I'm glad for your friend. That's
good.
Can
you pitch multiple places that it can be?
Yeah, because that was going to be one of my next questions. Is that in the case of Tom, the author we're talking about? I mean, some of his stuff can be labeled in multiple genres. And I don't know if there's a bookshelf section in a Barnes and Noble called urban fantasy or urban sci-fi. So when something kind of falls into
young adult horror.
Young adult horror. I mean, how does that kind of sell when something looks like it could be in multiple genres? I would imagine that a retailer might find that really enticing.
Oh, I think they do, and I think think about what amazing and engaged and well-read booksellers we have, especially at independent bookstores.
Oh yeah.
When I can walk into a bookstore and say, I want something that's romantic and maybe a little gothic, and they say, well, why don't you read An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson? It's a New York Times bestseller. And they walk me over to the young adult section. I'm going to read that book because they recommended it to me.
Exactly.
So, it's possible that a bookstore won't break it down as far as young adult horror, young adult urban fantasy, young adult fantasy, etc., but there will be a section. And the section is, in general, just like if you go into a grocery store. If you walk into the aisle that says cereal, in general, you're going to find cereal. You're not going to find milk.
Right.
Right? So in general, if you walk into a young adult section, it's going to have protagonists that are roughly 14 to 20 years old. the main protagonist is going to be roughly 14 to 20 years old.
Right.
So in K.D. Edwards' book, The Last Son, the protagonists aren't 14 to 20 years old, nor is it necessarily a coming-of-age story, even though there's a coming-of-identity theme in the book.
Right.
And so I shopped the book to publishers and imprints at those publishers that specialize in adult sci-fi and fantasy.
Oh, cool.
And so when we walk into an independent bookstore or a library or a Barnes & Noble, K.D. Edwards' book is going to be shelved in the sci-fi fantasy section for adults.
Yeah. Well, I think, and I'm going to jump on a soapbox here, I think it's really important to support those independent bookstores because, and not casting aspersions on anybody, because I know you have to live with these people, but not to cast aspersions on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or any of the other big retailers, but your independent bookstores the staff tends to be invested in what they are selling. Mm-hmm. Whereas in some of the big stores, it's just a job, or can be.
A job or not, to your point, the writer, think of it from your friend Tom's perspective. Think of it from K.D. Edwards' perspective. We need independent bookstores as our showcasing,
Absolutely.
right? That's where people find books. Now, one might argue, well, I can sit at home in my, pajamas and shop for books online. True, but from my analytics background, I look at the analytics carefully, and what has happened is that ebooks exploded from under 1% of the market to 20% of the market in a few years, and that's a huge growth. But it has gone backwards since then. So
Really?
We're still hovering around 19 or 18% in ebooks.
Interesting.
So I look at that, and when somebody says, well, I write adult science fiction fantasy like The Last Son, I would say to them, if you look at the analytics, the way you're going to make the most money is to have a print deal. Now, it's not a get-rich-quick scheme, right?
Right.
But if you look at long-term profit strategy today, then print for adult science fiction fantasy is outselling ebook. And so, by default, we need the support of independent bookstores.
Huh. Well,
I did not know that.
I guess, that's interesting because we, being of a certain age.
We're old farts.
We tend to buy, and we will, if it's something that we're going to read, we're always going to buy 2 ebooks.
Right.
Always.
But
we don't, while you can share some of them, we always buy 2 copies. I have my copy and I'm going to read at my pace. He's going to buy a copy and read at his pace. And then if we've really liked it, then we're going to either go see that author at a con and get a copy signed, or we're going to buy a copy and send it to the author and get it signed only because we talked to them, So, that's, we're kind of an exception to that rule is
but it's because,
we're going to do both.
Yeah, we'll definitely do both because we understand the profit end of it a little bit.
Yeah.
On how that it's a better benefit to the author, especially at a con. Because they've got all that overhead trying to make that appearance. But for Keith and I, hey, we got bifocals bordering on trifocals. We need the ebook. Easier to read.
Interesting.
And the arthritic old hands too.
The arthritic, oh my goodness. From rolling all those dice, that's your problem.
Yeah, well,
how did you guess?
It's kind of hard to hold a book sometimes,
I got
especially
dice
if
fingers.
it's a paperback. To hold that page open, it's easier to just prop the e-reader or the iPad in front of you.
So you would, of course, be what we call not low-hanging fruit, not medium-hanging fruit, but high-hanging fruit, right? So you're like the dream client because you're buying the property in multiple formats.
Exactly.
And for what it's worth,
a low-hanging fruit is somebody who's really easy to market to. We try to make our strategy based on a combination of the 3. So you're like the ideal customer because you're buying it in 2, possibly 3 times.
And
obviously, the author gets paid. Yeah, go ahead.
I even bought the audiobook.
Yeah.
It's 4 formats. Yep,
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the author gets paid every single time. And if somebody doesn't have a lot of money, we can tell people, go get it at the library because the author gets paid when the libraries buy it too.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course.
Whether it's in print or ebook.
Right.
So these are all ways that are beneficial to libraries, but to your original point, the independent bookstores, invaluable. It's so important.
Absolutely.
So important to us.
And they always do those special signing events and whatnot like that for authors that, and it's really important. And I just one more soapbox item. I encourage people, when you see an author at a con, please pay them in cash. Please.
Yeah.
Because, they don't need that additional 2% for the card or whatever. And they're out of pocket up front for those books that they have brought to that con.
Yeah.
Please buy them there. Please.
Yeah, we always make a point of doing that. I mean, we always try to get books from the author at the con. I mean, sometimes even authors that we just first time meet, we'll buy books from them right there on the spot. Because I mean that's really the best way I think you can support an author that writes in the genre that you might be interested in.
So.
Yep. Well, I just got back from Denver Comic-Con where I spoke with one of my clients who's written a queer epic fantasy. And we were on several panels together, and her books were flying off shelves, just flying. She's published by Tor, and the first book is called The Tiger's Daughter. And you're totally right. Every time we sat down, books, people, you were talking about The Tiger's Daughter. Can I hear more about that? Yeah, you're totally right.
Cool.
I'm just curious about one thing. But before we wrap up, I'm really curious. You've been a bit of a champion for representing authors that are writing books that are that really feature a lot of social equality, shall we say?
Mm-hmm.
What was that made you want to pursue that particular avenue?
Being a nice human being.
Well,
besides
besides being a decent person.
I think that's always been part of my agenda. I think that it is an agenda that is talked a lot about on social media right now. So perhaps the things that I've always been doing and my company's always been doing are now more front and center.
Cool.
So I have an author who wrote a trilogy of gay cyberpunk adventure books last year.
Interesting.
His name is Don Ullman, and the book was The Glamour Thieves. And I've been doing queer books for a long time. Not all my clients are out, so I hesitate to
to name them.
Self-identify, right? Like I don't think that it's not my job to tell anybody else's identity, and that's true for my Muslim authors too. That's true for my disabled authors. Obviously, racial equality in publishing is something that's getting a lot of screen time right now, as it well should. And I don't even necessarily feel comfortable identifying all my clients that way.
You shouldn't have to.
No, you shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
So I appreciate the compliment, and I think it's something that KT Literary, which isn't the company I work for, and myself, it's something we've always done. And thankfully, there's a large social media conversation going on right now, so that when the social media conversation happens, we can effortlessly put in names and say, look, read The Last Son by Katie Edwards, read The Glamour Thieves by Don Ullman, read Tiger's Daughter by Kay Arsenal Rivera. And that conversation magnifies itself and helps in an authentic and organic manner, as opposed to me having to put up a flag and say, look, a queer author, please buy their queer book.
Oh, that's
cool.
Fantastic.
Which feels, particularly as a Jew, it feels a little awkward because I don't want anybody coming into my company and saying, excuse me, could you please give me a list of your Jews?
Mm-hmm.
Right, I don't want that. So
Exactly.
I don't want anybody coming to me and like, where's your list of queer authors? No, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
That doesn't work for me. So that's the long answer. I appreciate the compliment. I think it's something we've always been doing at KT Literary.
Good.
And I'm glad and I appreciate that people are noticing, especially for my, marginalized authors who are brilliant and talented.
Well,
Absolutely.
I appreciate what you're doing greatly because that's, these kind of authors need that kind of push, and their work needs that push. So if people want to know more about what if anyone wants to know more about what you're doing or any other works that you're representing, not necessarily, like you said, you want to identify some of the authors, but the works themselves that you feel are really exciting, that are getting ready to be published, that have been published, that you're pushing. How can they follow you and learn more about those books?
Excellent question. Thank you. I try really hard to answer people's questions on Twitter, which is at Sarah Megabo. We have a company website, which is ktliterary.com, so kitetacoliterary.com. And I have clients' books broken down by genres on Pinterest boards, which people can find if they go to Publishers Marketplace and look up my name. So Publishers Marketplace / Sarah Megabo. I think those are some pretty good places to start. We have a really exciting launch on Tuesday, which is Trail of Lightning by Rebecca Roanhorse. And Rebecca's a debut author, and her book is an Indigenous Mad Max Fury Road.
Wow.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Sounds
So,
great.
always busy. Kay Arsenault Rivera's second book is coming out in a couple months, and that's the queer epic fantasy I was telling you about. That's very exciting. And Don Allman has another book coming out, so that's the queer cyberpunk I was telling you about. And, of course, Katie Edwards has the second book in her series coming out in January called The Hanged Man.
I've already bought my copy.
Yeah.
At least I pre-ordered my copy.
Yeah.
I can't
Pre-order,
wait.
yeah. So,
I know. I can't wait either. I'm
Yeah,
so
well-
excited.
well, thank you for being on the show with us, Sarah.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. Thanks from a fan's perspective, thank you for doing what you do. I appreciate it.
Oh,
Sure.
Thank you very much.
This is Katie Edwards, author of The Last Sun, and you're listening to The Two Gay Geeks.
And here's a few selected birthdays for August 20th through August 26th, 2018. August the 20th, James Marsters, Sylvester McCoy, David Williams.
And I should point out that all three of them had some kind of connection to Doctor Who and obviously Sylvester. But James Marsters was in the Torchwood spinoff, and David Williams actually had 2 guest roles on Doctor Who.
Yeah, and David Williams was also the other half of Little
Britain.
Yes, Little Britain. And also on August 20th, Robert Plant, John Noble.
Which John Noble?
This is the John Noble.
Oh, okay, the John Noble we all love.
Yes. And, well, not that we don't love the other one, but
Oh, no, but
anyway. Howard Phillips Lovecraft, or
Hey,
H.P.
from
Lovecraft. And
Radio
we were just
Cthulhu.
just talking about Radio Cthulhu. And Alan Lee.
Oh, he's the illustrator for. Well, he illustrated a lot of Tolkien works,
Yes.
and also served as, I guess you could say, a designer, visualizer for Peter Jackson's films.
Yeah. Also on August 20th, a good friend of ours, Mr. Al Lutz. Happy birthday,
Happy
Al.
birthday, Al!
August 21st, Sergey Brin. He is the co-founder of our Overlords, Google Overlords.
Oh,
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes. Also, Count Basie, Carrie Ann Moss, who is actually in the Matrix, which is, if you want to talk about the Overlords. And Steve Case.
The AOL Overlord.
The AOL Overlord, yeah. The original, I guess, GUI interface
Yeah, that was
social
under him, I
network.
believe. Yeah.
So, there was, Prodigy and CompuServe and all of that
Yeah,
crap
but that AOL was
before.
the first one that really just pushed the whole
Yeah.
graphical user interface.
Exactly. Also on August 21st, Bartolomeo Giuseppe Guarneri.
Wow.
He was a violin maker that rivaled Stradivarius. We saw
We
several.
saw some of his works at
Yep.
the museum up in Scottsdale.
Music Instrument Museum. Yeah,
Yes.
they had the Stradivarius exhibit, and they had several Guarneri violins and viola too.
Yeah,
so.
and I remember there was some commentary saying that some people actually prefer Guarneri's violins
Yeah.
over Stradivarius because of just a different kind of tone.
Exactly. It depends on what kind of sound you're going for.
Right.
I think the Guarneris are known for a deeper, throaty. kind of
Yeah,
sound.
I remember hearing or seeing a video, and I think I prefer the Guarneris myself.
Yeah. Also on August 21st, Mr. Keith Dupuy, a friend of ours on Facebook, and Ari Marino.
Happy birthday, Keith and Ari.
Yes. August 22nd, Ray Bradbury.
Oh, crazy Uncle Ray. Gotta
Yeah.
love him.
And Claude Debussy. And Lenny Riefenstahl. I put her on here because she was a fabulous photographer. I don't subscribe to her politics, but she was a Third Reich photographer. But her photos and her photography were just incredible. So also on August 22nd, Dorothy Parker. Of all the Dorothy Parker memes, one of them is, the definition of eternity is 2 people and a ham.
Oh, that's about right.
Yep.
Because we've experienced that.
Yes, several times.
Yes.
August 22nd, also Robin Blue Jacket, my cousin. And August 23rd, Barbara Eden. Jeannie. Yes, that Jeannie. I don't have her sound.
Why not?
I gotta find that sound. Yeah,
you have.
I have everything else. I have Bewitched, and Endora's,
but you don't have
Jeannie's. Yeah. Oh,
wow.
Darn it. Also, Gene Kelly.
Gene
Kelly. Yes. Also on August 23rd, good friend of ours, Teresa Corey.
She's our
birthday.
fairy godmother.
Yes, she's our fairy godmother travel agent. Well, and Arias too, as a matter of fact. And also on August 21st, Nelson Duffel, who's a Facebook friend. August 24th, Marley Matlin.
You know, I will always remember seeing her at Christmas.
Yes.
For the Candlelight Processional at Epcot, the Disney World.
Yep.
And watching her was magic. I still get chills when I think about it. Yeah. She was amazing.
Yeah, it was. Also on August 24th, Kenny Baker.
R2-D2.
Stephen Fry and Rupert Grint.
Yeah,
Ron Weasley. Yes.
Yeah.
And another Facebook friend, Skip Jones. Happy birthday, Skip. August 25th, Sean Connery. One ping only.
One ping.
Tim Burton and Monty Hall. Let's make a deal.
Let's make it right.
I will never forget watching that show. It's just as a kid.
It was an institution.
A madhouse.
Oh, it was mental.
Has anybody got a button? Has anybody got a needle? Has anybody got what? Oh my God!
It was absolutely mental.
I
know. I think they let all the loonies out of the insane asylum
exactly.
for that show.
What's behind curtain number one?
Yeah.
The Zonk.
Yeah.
Yes, that was the big one.
Let's see what's behind the curtain. Carol Merrill.
Yes. Also on August 25th, Leonard Bernstein, Tom Skerritt, and Facebook friend Susan Morton, and Rebecca Louisa Smith. She's the film festival doctor, and Celia Reeder from Arizona Opera. August 26th, Mother Teresa, Macaulay Culkin, James Franck. Didn't he invent the Franck length?
Yeah.
Exactly. No, that was Max Planck.
Oh, Max Planck? No. I thought James Franck invented currency.
He actually was a physicist. So that's the only reason I put it on there. And also on the same day, Edward Witten from MIT, who was a famed physicist. He's the one that was on that DVD talking about the membranes, how they, or the brains for.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And people actually think of him as like the heir apparent to Einstein.
It's possible. You never know. And that's it for the birthdays this time.
Hi, this is Barbara Dillon, one of the co-hosts of Fanbase Press's flagship podcast, The Fanbase Weekly. During the Fanbase Weekly podcast, the co-hosts and I discuss the top geek news stories of the week. In each episode, we are joined by special guests from all across the pop culture spectrum to get their take on what's happening in geekdom. Past guests have included Jeffrey Thorne, writer of Leverage and The Librarians, DC All Access's Jason Inman, Debbie Lynn Smith of Chimera Press, Xena Warrior Princess executive producer Stephen L. Sears, Ashley V. Robinson of Geek History Lessons, and many, many more. Join us for an episode of the podcast that celebrates fandoms on a weekly basis. A new episode of the Fanbase Weekly is released every Monday. Be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes or look for the podcast at fanbasepress.com.
Go give a listen to our friends Barbara and Bryant Dillon over at Fanbase Weekly. And now, it's time for the wonderful stuff.
And Keith's silliness on the board.
No, I'm not going to be silly today.
Oh, not today. Okay.
I won't be silly at all.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it went the wrong way.
Of course it did. So that's your story and you're sticking with it.
Exactly.
All right. We got a little bit of feedback. Starting off, of course, a couple of weeks ago, Jeannie Koch, who had been at the Comic-Con International in San Diego 2018. She came back and gave us a nice review of everything she got to personally experience. And Hamish Downey commented with, "It's always fun to read something of Jeannie's." Well, of course it is, because
Jeannie's Jeannie.
Jeannie's Jeannie.
She has a very unique outlook on life.
A terribly unique outlook, which I adore. And it also helps that she's also a very, very good writer.
Yes.
And then also, we had a review for the movie Bugsy Malone. The Roaring Twenties become fun and lively. At least it did for me and not for Keith.
It was charming.
Yes, and you say that with quotes.
Yes.
Anyway, Hamish Downey said, "I always put this film in the same category as those awful posters with kids in oversized adult clothes. But maybe I should have given it a chance when I was younger." And then I got a comment from Neil Halford. He says, "God, I loved this movie. I remember seeing it on the big screen at the Eagle Theater in Stillwell,
Oklahoma."
Right. And then lastly, a comment from Michael Ferris and says, "Oh my God, old school right there. When are you guys going to revisit the original Going in Style?" Maybe never.
Maybe.
Hard to say. But the one thing about Bugsy Malone, I think the only reason I loved it is because I saw it when it first came out, so it was sort of a slice of that time.
Yeah.
I think people who watch
it was cute. I mean, it was just...
my mom loves it.
Yeah.
She saw it at the same time that I did, and she just loves the movie. She saw it recently.
Then the DVD can go to her house.
No, I don't think so. I'm holding on to that baby. And that's our feedback for this week.
Yeah, we want to hear from you, our listeners. You are important to us. Let us know what you think about anything that we say on the podcast, any people we talk to, any of our articles on tggeeks.com, or anything. You can comment on our Facebook page. You can comment on Twitter. You can comment on Instagram, and just about any place, as well as at tggeeks.com. And if you feel like it, you can call our listener feedback line and you can leave us a message, and we'll play your comment on air. It's 469-TG-GEEKS. That's 469-844-3357. And remember, please play nice.
2K Geeks Webcast.
Okay.
It's done.
It's done. I wanted to talk about this, even though this was announced a couple of weeks ago. I really want to touch on it today. This is it's a controversial story, and that is Star Trek Discovery has cast somebody to play Spock.
Oh, I saw that, but I did not look at the article.
Yeah, actually. I mean, this guy looks good.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people were hoping that it would be Zachary Quinto to play the part, but no.
Yeah.
But no, they got this guy, and we have an article that we will share on our show notes. It's from Krypton Radio, and they have a side-by-side of this actor. I'm trying to find the name. My gosh,
Ethan Peck.
Thank you, Ethan Peck, who is the grandson of Gregory Peck.
Oh,
by the
interesting.
way, yes.
All right.
And there's a side-by-side of Ethan next to Leonard Nimoy in the Spock outfit from the original series. And I see similarities.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if they do his hair and the eyebrows, I think that he could very well pull it off.
I could see this actually working. Now, I'm not going to go too much into the article itself. I'm more curious of the fact that they actually have cast him.
Yeah.
Because I remember all the hubbub last year. We will not have Spock in the series.
Yeah, right.
And now all of a sudden, of course, yes, they have changed showrunners.
But it's still Alex Kurtzman. So.
Well, yeah, but I think he's more like, the executive showrunner. I think there are people that are actually handling more of the day-to-day process, if you will. And those are the people that I think decided to go ahead and go with Ethan Peck, or go with the idea of having Spock in the show.
He's still going to put his fingers in it.
Yeah, well, no comment. But in any case, I am now admittedly curious. And I'd also, in a similar note, I'd also read a story that, of course, they're going to have Captain Pike in the series, and that somehow they are actually going to use him to maybe lighten the tone.
Captain Pike to lighten the tone?
I know.
Oh, my.
I know. This is going to be very, very odd. No idea what to think about this. We'll have the link for this in the show notes. It also includes the season 2 trailer that was premiered at Comic-Con in San Diego. So, but in the meantime, hey everybody, what are your thoughts?
What do you think?
I mean, would you like to have seen Zachary Quinto actually return to the role of Spock? Are you happy with the idea of Ethan Peck? Are you happy that they have Spock in the show at all? I'd like to know what you all
happy
think.
with anything?
Yeah. So,
like Discovery.
Well,
sorry.
not going to go down that road.
Am I letting my Freudian slip show?
A tiny bit. But let's talk about something that we are actually really kind of happy about. And this is something really funny because we've kind of fallen into this category of doing restaurant reviews.
Oh, my Lord. I can't. It's hard. Wow.
How did that happen?
Who knew that was going to happen?
Yeah, but it did.
So, yes, we have kind of fallen into the restaurant review category, and we've got one that will be coming up, actually a couple that will be coming up. This weekend was our anniversary, 22 years,
That's right.
and we pre-celebrated at Benihana on Friday night, which was actually, Benihana is fun. I mean, it's not...
You're not going there really for the really great food. You're going there for the fun of it.
Yeah. I mean, the food's okay.
Food's good, but you're going there for the fun.
Exactly. So then Saturday night, we wanted to really do it up nice, and we went out to El Chorro, which is...
Is that considered Scottsdale?
I think it's Scottsdale. It may still be Paradise Valley or Paralyzed Valley. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's that whole East Phoenix, Paralyzed Valley, West Scottsdale. Who knows?
Yeah, it's right there on Lincoln, just east of Tatum.
In a semi-developed area.
Yeah, and
so there's a lot of nature there. It's beautiful.
But they have a huge piece of property that it sits on, so it's kind of secluded. And it's a ranch type thing, and it really was great. The only reason that this kind of came to our attention is last spring for the dinner for Arizona Opera. Some patrons for Arizona Opera that we were invited to had their dinner there, and the food was incredible. And when we walked through, on the way to the special event, and also on the way back, we kind of looked at the menu, and we said, we have to come back here sometime.
We need to try this.
So we did, and
we loved it.
Oh my Lord! Yeah, there was. It was incredible.
There was not one bad item.
No,
not one.
We had. They have a trio of Shriner's sausages, which is Shriner's is a local sausage maker here in Phoenix, and they served that with some stone ground mustard as well as Dijon and some pretzel bread sliced up. But the real
fried lobster bites and the sauce that came with that.
It was a chipotle lime sauce. And oh my God, that was incredible. I put it on everything because it was just so good. I put it on the sausages. I put it on my steak.
Seriously, it was that delicious.
It really was. It was really nice.
Shocking. I mean, it was fabulous.
Yeah, and then we skipped the salad because we had the two entrees, and we went right to the entree. And
I had a beef stroganoff.
You had the beef stroganoff,
which was beyond my expectations.
It really was good, and they have braised short ribs on the menu,
but that's what we had last time.
That's what we had when we went to the opera dinner, so we knew what that was like, and it was really good. And I had the filet.
Yeah, it was the center cut filet.
It was really, really nice. It was perfectly cooked. It was served with haricot vert and what else was it? The scalloped potatoes.
The side of scalloped potatoes.
Oh my God, their scalloped potatoes are out of this world. It's just incredible.
It's not a cheap restaurant. I mean, you're going to pay for it, but the value is fabulous.
And
absolutely fabulous.
They served us a little dessert for our anniversary, and then we had a bottle of wine with dinner, a nice rosé.
And the ambiance is lovely.
Yeah,
I can't wait to go.
Very nice.
I can't wait to go back when the weather is nicer and actually eat out on the patio area.
Absolutely, I think it'll be great.
It'll be like I said, a slice of heaven.
Yeah, I was very pleased with it.
Yeah, so was I.
So we're going to do a write-up on that. A write-up on that, and that'll probably be on a Saturday when we release that, since our the reviews that we do are usually come out on Saturday, or restaurant reviews. So that was our weekend.
And what a wonderful weekend it was.
Yeah, it was. And we want to talk about mental health awareness again, as always. And somebody posted on Facebook that a friend of theirs had taken their life this weekend, and it just hurts my heart when I hear people that have done that. It does get better. Please, if you are struggling, please talk to somebody. It does get better.
Yes.
I'm Daniel Radcliffe, and I believe that reaching out for help is the bravest thing a person can do. If you are struggling and need support, call the Trevor Lifeline at 1-866-488-7386. It's free and confidential, and trained counsellors are there to listen 24/7 without judgment. To learn more about the Trevor Project's life-saving work for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or questioning young people, go to thetrevorproject.org.
And for those that only listen to the podcast, we do have a website where we run all sorts of interesting content. Had a kind of a busy week every week now. We have something every day. So Ben's going to run down what we covered this last week.
Yes. So on Sunday, August 12th, there was issue number 9 of Dr. Zombie, Monster Family Physician. On Monday...
That's by Tommy Cannon.
Yeah, by Tommy Cannon.
Dr. Zombie is...
it's like his alter ego.
Yeah, his alter ego.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool.
It's a lot of fun. On Monday the 13th, there was episode 182 of the TG Geeks webcast. On Tuesday the 14th, we had a review for the Infinity Engines, the first 2 books of the Infinity Engines series. On Wednesday, Jeannie came back with another old classics newly reviewed, this time for School for Scoundrels from 1960. On Thursday the 16th, there was a press release for Horrible Imaginings Film Festival, how they're adding a bonus night, as well as another press release for how Reverie announces an updated app and August content. And then on Friday, there was issue number 24 of News Sushi, morsels of news from Japan and beyond. And then lastly, on Saturday the 18th, Tuck In for Tea at Tuck Shop. And that's what we ran last week.
Yeah, and you can find all those at tggeeks.com, as well as entries on our Facebook page. Please visit and comment. As always, we've got a few follow-up items. Check out the widgets on the side of the page. There's things for a number of books that you should buy, that we recommend. So check them out on the right-hand side. We're great supporters of Arizona Opera, and hope you will be too. The next season begins in October, and hopefully we're going to have an interview with Joe Spector, who is the general manager and CEO of Arizona Opera.
And total loon. The man's mental.
And we might even talk to John De Los Santos, who is
God, I hope so.
Going to be here for Maria de Buenos Aires. So check them out at azopera.org. And we're huge supporters of independent creators. Please check them out. Filmmakers, comic book artists, writers, or other. Please consider supporting independent creators by buying their stuff.
Special shout out to Doctor Who Talking Who on Twitter, Michael C. Burgess on Twitter, The Human Arkle on Twitter. They all have paper release that republish our content. Doctor Who Talking Who's is the Doctor Who Fancast Guide. You can find it at Talking Who. Michael C. Burgess's is the Byronic Semi-Journal Aggregator. You can find him on Twitter at Byronic, Byronik. And The Human Arkles is the Arkle Times Post Dispatch News. On Twitter, it's at Arkle, Arkle. And we should also point out that Arkle has a YouTube channel. It's Arkle Studios, and shameless cash grab. Look up Arkle Studios all together. It's a lot of lunacy, but that's Arkle.
Yeah.
And then must give a shout out to the Facebook group, The Gay Geek, for allowing us to post our episodes and relevant stories there. We are grateful for that. And special shout out to Jeremiah Reeves. He's the moderator. So thank you, Jeremiah. The URL is facebook.com/groups/thegaygeek.
Thank you, Jeremiah. And thank you to everyone who has clicked on our Amazon ads recently. You've pushed us over the level where we might actually get paid.
We might get money.
We made $10. Yes. So you can find our Amazon Amazon
I
ads.
want you to spell that.
Yeah, Amazon. The Amazon ads at the bottom of each of our articles, as well as all of the widgets on the right-hand side. And occasionally in an article, we will have a post of something if we're talking about something that somebody's pushing. So check it out there and click on them. It shows that we are getting some traffic from our website to Amazon. And lastly, we are now on Spotify. Check us out on Krypton Radio at 3 a.m. and 3 p.m. Pacific time. And please,
on Tuesdays.
On Tuesdays, yes. And please rate us and review us on iTunes. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Up next week, we've got Ronnie Khalil, who's the director of a new film that's being released on video on demand and other places. So check out that next week. It was a fascinating...
Great interview.
He was talking to us from Egypt. Literally Egypt, not BFE, but just Egypt.
Well, might as well have been BFE.
Yeah, because he was out in remote Egypt.
Yeah.
So
it really was BFE.
Yeah. Okay, that should do it for this episode of TG Geeks Webcast. Be sure to check out the article on for this webcast episode. We're going to have several links of things that we talked about on that page. And remember, you can comment on our Facebook page or our website, tggeeks.com, or you can leave us a voicemail at 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-3357 from TG Squared Studios. I'm Keith Lane. Thanks for listening. Please be kind to yourself and those around you. Peace.
Cheers.